Okay, can you see my presentation? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So in last class, we started with the discussion on curvilinear motion, and for more complicated motions, it is better to express the motion in terms of coordinate or in terms of axes which are also moving, or which so there are different kinds of coordinates and different types of frames of reference from which we can um, observe the motion. uh, so the fixed uh, frame of reference which we have already seen was a Cartesian coordinate system, right? So that we have already seen. Yeah, so this is what you can see on the screen. So the first simplest type of coordinate system where we can observe the motion of a particle is Cartesian coordinate system, which are fixed. So x, y, and z axis, they are fixed, and that's what we call as an absolute reference frame, or a ideal reference frame. So we have these Cartesian coordinates, and we are observing the particle p having certain complicated motion. Now, the other kind of motion, other kind of coordinate system that we saw in the last class was what is called as tangential and normal coordinates, or path coordinates. So, yeah. So if a particle is moving along a certain path, now our coordinate axes are also moving along with the particle. So we have, you know, a unit vector ET cap, which points to the in the tangential direction of the path, and then we have a vector En cap, which is perpendicular to the ET cap and which points towards the center of curvature. And we have derived this expression. There it is. Yeah. So we have derived this expression that, so if the velocity we say is equal to v vector is equal to v times et cap, then the acceleration is dv by dt et cap plus v square by rho en cap. So if there is this rate of change of velocity magnitude along the tangential component, then that is your tangential acceleration. And then the normal component of acceleration is v square by rho, where rho is your radius of curvature. Um, yeah, let me go to the next slide. Okay, so we can describe the same idea in 3D as well. So if a particle is moving in a 3D space, we can again have these ET and En cap, and these together unit vectors, they form what is called as osculating plane. So this is the plane in which the path of the curve of your trajectory, the path lies on this curve. And so our acceleration is again given by the same relationship. So your tangential acceleration is dv by dt. The normal acceleration is v square by rho. And there is a third axis which is called as binormal, binormal direction. And in that direction, you will not have any motion. So acceleration has no component along the binormal direction. So it is again quite similar to the 2D as well. So let us take a simple example. Okay, I hope you can see the OneNote. Where we have done the derivation. And connect my pen. An important concept that we saw in this derivation is when unit vectors change direction. So we saw here that these unit vectors et and en, as the particle moves, these coordinates also change direction. And a very important relation we obtained from this diagram is det by d theta. So det by d theta turns out to be en cap. And now that's another important, I mean, that's a very important relation which we are going to use even in this class. Okay, so the example is, let us take a simple example that so let's say we have a projectile, a ball or a projectile, which let's say we, it's this theta is equal to, let's say, 30 degrees, and we are, it has got a velocity of 10 meter per second. So suppose the angle is just a little bigger, but it's okay. So now it is going to have a motion something like this. And now the question is, can we calculate the radius of curvature? Radius of curvature. We can calculate at any point, and let's calculate the radius of curvature at highest point. So I can say at a highest point, or I could also say, let us calculate the minimum radius of curvature. So the minimum radius of curvature, if you do the analysis for the full thing, you will see that the minimum radius of curvature is somewhere at the topmost point. So if we analyze thing at the topmost point, and if we just take components for, we can separate out the components. And so here this component is 10 cos 30, this is 10 sin 30. So this is 5 meter per second. And this is 8.66 meter per second. So if I consider that at the topmost point, this is going to have a velocity in the horizontal direction, 8.66 meter per second. And in the vertical direction, it is going to have zero velocity. So now we can see that at this point, at this point, the velocity is in this direction. And now if I consider a direction perpendicular to velocity, so direction perpendicular to velocity is this direction, which is vertical. And if we consider the acceleration in the vertical direction, so acceleration in vertical direction right now is, we know that AY at this topmost position is 9.8 meter per second square, acting downward. And so now if I calculate the if I use the above equation, v square by rho, so this acceleration 9.8 should be is equal to v square by rho. V is 8.66 meter per second square, so it is 8.66 square by rho. From here you can calculate what is your rho, which will be your minimum rho, and this turns out to be around 7.65 meters. So that is a very simple example to show that although this is moving in a bit complicated or parabolic path, but at every point, in fact, you can calculate the radius of curvature, assuming that at this point it is undergoing a pure circular motion. So at this point it is having a center at somewhere 7.65 meters away, and it is like, at this instant it is taking a pure rotation about a point which is 7.65 meters away. And this again can be calculated for all the locations. So that's a simple application of what we have seen about the in the last class. And now going ahead, the discussion for today's class is I would say quite interesting, and it is to do analysis for systems something like this. So I hope you can see my PowerPoint screen. And so let us say we have a firefighting truck or a firefighting equipment, this thing here. Now, let me have my pen. Okay. Now let us say this staircase or this thing is rotating with theta dot. Even let's say it has got an angular acceleration theta double dot. At the same time, this whole staircase can have a motion along this direction, right? So this can have displacement x, it can have a velocity x dot, it can have an acceleration x double dot, right? So if we have a situation something like this, and let us say for the timing, let me piece out this part. This hopefully we will see later on. But if I have just if this staircase or this person is moving ahead with a velocity of x dot on a frame which is also rotating with theta dot with an omega and alpha, how do we write the velocity and acceleration of the final this point with respect to the ground? So that is one type of interesting problem that we are going to see. Another problem is what you can see on this second image here. It's the concept we are going to learn is actually used for radar systems for tracking any moving object, whether airplane or missiles or something. So the idea is, let's say an airplane is moving along this direction, particle is moving along a complicated curvilinear path. And now here we have got the radar which is tracking this thing, right? So now the idea is, as I started the discussion in this class, the particle is moving in an arbitrary curvilinear fashion, right? It is having an arbitrary motion, but we are observing or we are trying to quantify the motion with respect to certain coordinate frames. And there are different types of coordinate frames. Cartesian is one. What we saw in the last discussion, path coordinates are another one. And here that we are going to see is what is called as polar coordinates. So the analysis of these class or these types of problems is done using what is called as polar coordinates. So now here you can see that I can track the motion of this airplane using two coordinates. One is the r coordinate, which is from, so this is my origin, right? So satellite, this radar station is my origin. From here we are trying to measure the position of this particle. So I can specify its position with respect to the length, which is r, which is called as radial direction. And we can have a reference frame, and with respect to a reference line, I can measure an angular position theta. And I can now measure the position of this particle if I know r, if I know r dot, if I know theta, if I know theta dot and theta double dot. So as the particle is moving along this path, this radar is also turning, and therefore we know theta, theta dot, theta double dot. And from this, the radar physics or radar mechanics, we also know r and r dot. Now, using these variables, can we exactly pinpoint the velocity of this particle? Can we pinpoint exactly the acceleration of this particle? So I want to describe the acceleration and velocity. In fact, I want to describe the motion of this particle p using these variables. Same phenomenon on the top. So using you can say x dot, or I can say r dot. Same thing, right? So if I measure it with respect to this, in fact, a better thing would be r and r dot. Let me erase that. So we have r and r dot, and theta, theta dot, and theta double dot. Now, can we specify the motion of this end particle? So these are same problems, and this is what we are going to learn in this section. I'll switch to this thing here, OneNote, to do the derivation. What is called polar coordinates. Okay. So the basic idea of excuse me. The basic idea of the polar coordinates is that we observe through a central point. We observe or particle through a central point. So let us say this is my some coordinates, and the particle is moving along some path. Now, it is easier to, or we are observing the particle using this origin O. So this is a particle P which is moving along some curved arbitrary curvilinear motion, and we want to observe it with a radius a radial length r, and with respect to a reference frame. So reference can be from anywhere, right? So it is not necessary that it has to be anti-clockwise, and it can be from any reference frame, but it just has to be consistent with that. So so we have now two polar coordinates. Which we call as r comma theta. So now this point P, instead of specifying x comma y, we are specifying this with the polar coordinates as r comma theta. Okay. Now next thing is to assign or associate two unit vectors in this direction. So now we have, one is a radial direction. So therefore I have this unit vector er cap, which is along the radial direction, and the second is the angular direction, also called as transverse direction, which is e theta cap. So now we have two unit vectors. One is er cap, which is along the radial direction, and second is e theta cap, which is what is called as transverse or angular direction. So This is your E theta cap. Now, the next idea is, or the next thing is, if this particle moves to some other point, let's say somewhere here, the whole directions will change. So ER cap will change, E theta cap will change. So this is going to be your ER cap prime, and then you'll have this as E theta cap prime. So the vector directions are going to change. And again, if we draw the same diagram for, let's say, ER and E theta, so let's draw the diagram for ER cap. So this is ER, and after a displacement, it has gone to ER cap prime. And this has moved by an angle of d theta or delta theta. So this is delta theta. Now, again, following the same analysis, what we did in the last class. So this vector is your delta ER, change in ER. So delta ER is equal to ER cap prime minus ER cap. And this thing again from the geometry was 2 r sine delta theta by 2, right? So this was the and in fact this has got a length, no, this has got a length 1, so this is just 2 times sine delta theta by 2. And therefore when we consider DER cap by d theta, which was your limiting case that delta theta approaches 0, delta ER by delta theta, and this turns out to be your En E theta cap, right? So this will be your unit vector along this direction, which is along the transverse direction, and therefore that is going to be your E theta cap. Same way, if so, this is an important relation that we need. Now, the another direction was E theta. Now, in the previous case of path coordinates, the this direction was same, because at every point we had a different we didn't had a central point of observation, but now here this direction is also changing. So so if this is our E theta cap, and now it has moved to E theta cap prime, so the change in this, you can see, will be in this direction, which is opposite to ER direction, right? So again, if you do the same analysis, what we will see is that d E theta by d theta will be ER, but in the opposite direction, so with a negative sign. So so these are two very important relationships. Now we can extend this concept to DER by DT, right? So if I use this above equation, so I can say DER by d theta times d theta by dt. And now here d theta by dt is known to us, right? Because we are observing it from point O. And that is what the difference is of this concept of polar coordinates with respect to the path coordinates. In the path coordinates, theta dot is not known, but here we know theta dot. So therefore this becomes DER by d theta times theta dot. So this is your ER dot. So this is one important equation, and this similarly the second important equation will be DE theta by dt. this will be dE theta by d theta times d theta by dt. Yeah, so this will be minus ER cap times theta dot. So this is your E theta dot. Of course, we can put a cap here. That's okay. So these are two important relations which will be used now. Okay, so having done these derivations, now let's come to the main thing is how do we express the velocity and acceleration for such particle. So now the problem is same, that we have a particle which is moving along some arbitrary point, arbitrary curve, and we track its motion by a radial coordinate r and an angular position theta. And of course, we know r dot, and we also know theta dot, and we also know theta double dot. So the idea is, can we express the velocity and acceleration of particle using polar coordinates observed from a central position O? So first thing is we express the position vector. So first thing is we express the position vector of particle P. So the position vector of particle B is r vector is equal to r magnitude times ER cap, right? So that is the very simple thing. So if I from point O, if I want to write the position vector, it will be along ER cap. So this is the ER cap, and this is E theta cap. So the position vector is going to be along ER cap with a magnitude of R, right? So that's straightforward. Now, the next is velocity. So the velocity is v vector given by d by dt of r vector. Now here, if we take the chain rule, so that is r dot into er cap plus r times er cap dot, right? So now we have to find the time derivative of the er cap, the radial unit vector, how it is changing. And er cap dot we have calculated and we have put in here, right? So this is your this expression, and in fact this is equal to theta dot times er cap by e theta is your e theta, right? What wrote that? So now here this becomes your r dot times er cap plus r times theta dot times e theta cap. That is the velocity. So this is a vector. So this equation is again quite, you can understand it quite easily. So this is a vector, the velocity is a vector addition of r dot, or the rate of change of along the r direction, plus your, you can say omega r, right? So that is your r into theta dot is like your omega r is the velocity in the perpendicular direction, and it's a vector addition of this thing, right? Also from these equations we can go to a more simplified case of circular motion. So in case of circular motion, your r is constant and r dot is 0, and therefore so if you substitute r dot as 0, so what you get is your velocity is always tangential, right? So if I have got a fixed point and if I have a circular motion taking place, then then you know that velocity is equal to your omega r. Right? So next is acceleration, and here is going to be some new concepts that you may not have seen before. The acceleration vector is defined as dv vector by dt, and now we'll differentiate this term here with respect to time, and so it is d by dt of r e r cap plus r theta dot e theta cap. Okay, and now if I differentiate this, it becomes r dot. Again, you have to use derivative for both terms separately. So r dot times er cap plus r times er cap derivative plus r dot. Now here we have three terms, so we have to do it three times. R dot theta, not theta, yeah, theta dot e theta cap plus r into theta double dot into e theta cap plus r into theta dot times e theta cap dot. So total we have these five terms, and so this is r dot into er cap, that is straightforward. The next term is r into er cap dot. So er cap dot is this thing, which is theta dot e theta cap plus r dot theta dot e theta cap plus r theta double dot e theta cap plus r theta dot into e theta cap dot. E theta cap dot, let's again see that e theta cap dot is minus er cap theta dot minus er cap theta dot. It's fine. Okay, so now we have written the whole expression for acceleration. Let's combine things, terms together. So if I see er cap, so this is er cap, this is er cap. Let's put them together. So it is r dot. Wait a minute. Oh, this is r dot. I forgot to put a dot here. Please make that correction. Yeah, when you differentiate, it becomes r double dot. Okay, this is r double dot. Yes, first term will be r double dot minus r into theta dot square into er cap. So this is the first term, and let's collect the theta terms together plus let me put this term here. So this is r theta double dot plus again this was r dot here, so please sorry for that. So this, I forgot this r dot, right? So this was r dot. So r dot theta dot plus r dot theta dot will become 2 times r dot theta dot to e theta cap. Okay, so this is the final expression for acceleration, and now let us try to understand what each of these terms mean. Okay, so now here r double dot is the acceleration of the particle which is radially moving outward, right? So so if the particle has got a radial motion outward, that is your r double dot term. Now this is minus r theta dot square. Theta dot is like your omega, so it is like your minus omega square r term. So this is like your if I'm observing from this point, so it is an acceleration directed towards the center, like your centripetal acceleration. So if your r is constant, then in circular motion, this is your centripetal acceleration. So these together constitute the what is called as your radial component of acceleration. So these together added, together. So if this is the particle and this, I'm observing it from point O here. So this is the radial direction AR and acceleration here is R double dot minus R theta dot square. The next component of acceleration is in the angular direction or the transverse direction, the theta direction. And this acceleration will be perpendicular to here, and this is your A theta, and this is equal to your R theta double dot plus 2R dot theta dot. Now this R theta double dot is like your alpha R, right? So if this has a rotating with an with an angular velocity theta dot and an angular acceleration theta double dot, then this is your tangential component of acceleration that you have seen before, alpha R, right? So that is your this one component. Now this is a new term, hopefully that you may not have seen before, and this is what is called as Coriolis acceleration. And this is given as 2 times theta dot times r dot, right? So this is a component of acceleration which is not so easy to perceive, and in fact you can see that this thing is coming due to two things. So it is coming, one component is coming from here, another component is coming from here, and these two leads to a new type of acceleration called as Coriolis acceleration. And in fact, vectorially, this is given by 2 times omega vector cross v vector, right? So if for more complicated systems, this is given by this vector equation. And although we are introducing this concept here, but mechanical engineers will study this, its application in their advanced courses. Because for more complicated machines, and you will see that these kinds of components come in. So if there is a particle which is having which is rotating, and at the same time it is having a velocity, these kinds of acceleration will come into picture. I want to take some examples, but I don't know how much time I have right now. Okay, so I think we'll close this lecture. That's all for today. We'll see some examples in the next class.